Hello viewers, here is a Lasko box fan in very nice condition. This is one of the nicest instances I've ever seen of these fans. The guards are still perfectly white. The blades aren't warped as far as I know it. So I didn't think they were, maybe they are, who knows. And the paint's got a little bit of rust here and there, but it's otherwise pretty good. I forget where I got this one. Might have come from the Goodwill. I don't know. Handle still there, which is pretty rare. Lasko, old Lasko logo. So this has got to be an older model. I don't think these go back later than the 80s. I don't remember when they stopped using that older logo. Oh, the plug is polarized, so I guess it probably isn't any older than the 90s. Huh. I'm surprised to see that older logo there. Perhaps that logo is not as old as I thought it was. I don't know. I'm not very good with dates and model numbers and all that stuff. I just like the fans. Some people know all this model number stuff. I can never remember it. This does have the plastic motor, which a lot of people knock, and I think that's unnecessary because obviously it was cheap. We know that it was intended to be cheap, but it still works. These fans are getting to be 30-something years old, and these motors often still work. Yeah, they lock up every now and again if you don't keep them oiled, but they still work. And that's more than can be said about the stuff that we have today. The stuff we have today probably not be working in 30 years from now. And the motor in this one is very nice and clean. You can see the varnish on the winding still has a shine to it. One of the things I don't like about these motors, and this goes for even the metal Marco ones that were used up until the very early 2000s, is that the wires, as it transfers between winding, or between pole rather, a lot of times those wires are not really securely varnished in place, and so over time the vibration can cause the insulation to wear off, which ultimately leads to a burnout condition. And so a lot of times with these motors I like to take them apart and revarnish them, especially if they've got a lot of hours on them, you know, or they're older. This one is newer. I mean, not newer, clean. So it's not, you know, it doesn't have a lot of use on it. It's probably not so bad, but I'll probably do this one eventually when I put this thing into service, if a use case for it develops. But you know, I think these are pretty underrated, quite frankly. They were pretty powerful fans. I've heard a lot of people compare them to the Lakewood third generation fans, and it makes sense because it is of a similar era. I don't know. I don't really think that the Lakewood box fans were all that much better than these. The Lakewood certainly had some advantages. They had the metal motors, not plastic motors. I think the motors are a little bit better quality. Although, those motors do have not as a reputation, but they're not foolproof either. They've had some issues over the years. I've heard of plenty of them exploding. Oh, plenty, but I've heard of it. And the Lakewood had the advantage of the nice slow low speed. This doesn't have the nice slow low speed. So, I mean, the Lakewood has some things going for it. I think these were a fair bit cheaper. I'm not certain, but I think they were monetarily cheaper. As far as airflow goes, at full power, I think they're both pretty powerful fans. I remember seeing these around a fair bit. I remember the tail ends of these fans' popularity. It wasn't unusual to see these, even up until like the mid 2010s. I used to see these around early 2010s. I'd see them. Now I don't see them much anymore, but I still see them every now and again. Let's see here. Do we have informations on this thing? We do. we have, well, not very useful information. It says Type 1 E20739, which I guess is the UL listing. 1988 to 1989, so this is a late 80s model, 2.2 amps at the 60 hertz at the 120 volts. So this is from the 1988. And that's probably another reason why I like these, because I am a big fan of the 1980s. It's my favorite decade, and of course they were popular, you know, coming out of the 80s. One of the things I always thought was a little odd though was the guards. They have this cutout there, and that's for the cord. They use the same guard in the rear as they did on the front, and I guess that's just another cost-saving measure that they did, which, it's cheesy, but I'd rather than save some money there doing that than make a crummy motor or something like they do now. Alright, let's get this thing plugged up. I already have the kilowatt meter ready. We are currently testing at 121.8 volts, which is kind of high. Usually it's only 119, 120 here. And so let's move this like this. Take this camera over here out of the Windstream, and I will turn the thing on. We'll start it up on the low. I've always been surprised by the startup sound on these plastic motors. It's really quite good, which I wouldn't expect. Plastic blade, plastic motor, there's not much to resonate the sound, but these always have a really pronounced startup sound. And the low speed isn't bad on these. It's not the silent Lakewood low speed for sleeping, but it's not obnoxious either. It puts out plenty of air. Okay, let's go up to the medium. Oh, that's probably in the wind. I hate when there's wind noise in the video. Is there still wind noise in the video? I think there is. It's moving plenty of air, and it's really not all that loud. Okay, and to the high speed. These are supposed to have feet on them. This one's ready to go over, but I don't think it'll go over without any external influence. It's really not as loud as I remember it being. Especially for the air that's going out of there. Plenty of flow. Pretty well balanced too. Bearings are pretty healthy, which would be expected for a low hours machine. Let's take a listen to the startup sounds. Jeez. Okay, this is the high. It's making a weird scraping sound in there. I'm not sure what that is. I found a lot of these motors did make some kind of weird noise, scraping sound or grinding sound or whatever, and that's just how they operate. Okay, here's the medium. It's too bad these D-blade fans tended to warp, because if they didn't warp, or before they warp rather, they move quite a bit of air, but they very consistently warp, unfortunately, and I haven't figured out a good way to fix that. Here's the low. Okay. So there's that. Whatever the model number is, I'll look it up and put it into the video title and the video description that nobody reads.